Hey neighbors, the handyman here with Initiative Coffee Company. I'm here with the stand for Power Rangers Ninja Storm, Jake Delmaro, and today we're talking about DDAL 4-9, the Tempter, writers M. Sean Molly, editor Claire Hoffman, and Travis Woodall. This is a 2-hour mod for Tier 2 play tuned for 5 5th level characters. Party sent to Lady Fedotov's estate in hopes that she will help Arasnow's need. Eventually, a nightly recurring curse throws the manor into chaos as the visitors are transformed into monsters. Lady Fedotov, now in the form of a banshee, defends her estate and her wealth from the party. Part 1, A Night to Remember. Party is sent a letter offering refuge for Luca from 4-8, and an evening in luxury at Lady Fedotov's estate. Burgermeister Randovich suggests she might aid Arasnow in their tax plight. She flatly refuses to aid Arasnow, and specifically Burgermeister Randovich, in their tax plight. After the refusal, she offers the party hospitality for the night and provisions in the morning. Jake, get us started off here. What's going on?
This mod is really kind of troll, not gonna lie. Like Ivan Radovich is also he wants. He's a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Wait, why am I even mincing words? He's just a bad guy. And
he's a bad dude for sure.
And you find in of course for a DM, you finding out there was previous relationships between them, and they were both trying to play each other, and really not certain how that one panned out, but it didn't. And you get
the feeling maybe it was a romance, but it's not very clear.
It was a business relationship kind of, but under the guise of potential marriage, and it seemed interesting to say the least. But it's cool. You get to have talk with her. You know, she's really neat. She's a cool character. I think she's an interesting character. In so far as to say she's not 100% a jerk.
She definitely has motivations and reasons to say no, right?
And you know what? That's what I'm okay with. She's very much holding that on the outside of her sleeve, not way deep, elsewhere. It's no, I don't want to do this because if people hear word of me helping, then everyone's gonna be here, and I don't want that. It's that makes sense,
because realistically she can't help everyone that comes to the door, right? Eventually her stores will dry out as well,
and that's fine. And minus the fact that we know that she's a banshee, but I
mean, you don't. The party doesn't beforehand.
As a DM, she's a banshee. The whole thing is way worse than what it really appears to be. And then as I mentioned in the last episode, when you bring up Luca and his dad, she's I was paying a debt, nothing more, and doesn't talk anything else about it. And it's it really speaks to the fact that she's a businesswoman, and a banshee. But that's is what it is, and that's probably gonna be my line. Sure. Whatever she does, and she's a banshee.
Right.
But it's once again, it brings me to the point of what awful party gave this playtester a run for their money? Because it says troubleshooting, let's just kill her now.
Yeah.
Who said, yep, we're just gonna kill her? I think I might just stand up from the table and leave. Be you guys if you guys want a dungeon crawl, we can play it. We can go run, something else.
Right.
There's other mods out there, and granted, this was written 4 years ago, or no, 5 years ago, and Tales of the Yawning Portal wasn't out. Go run into the Giants or whatever.
Don't run into the Giants.
Go run into the Giants.
Go run into the Giants.
If you want to go, if you want to
murder a bunch of stuff,
just go run into the Giants. But the best part about it is they can waste all their resources they do, because they're all gonna come back anyway, and it's the most big middle finger. If it doesn't specifically tell you, oh, you can kill them, but they're coming back in 2 hours. Yeah. You haven't done it.
I will say, usually I am indifferent about block text, right? Normally I'm read it if you want. There's some block text here that seems clunky and awkward, where she specifically talks about the book she's reading. For whatever reason, like... So it's a clue to the puzzle later, right? And it's the only clue to a puzzle later. And it's in block text to make sure that the DM reads it to the party. And presumably that the party's paying attention. But, like...
It's just a weird adventure, to say the least. Like,
yeah, so part of the block text is, it says, you find her on the lounge reading a book, noticing you, she smiles. Ah, the history of the Fedatovs, always fascinating. Like, you have to know, you have to go find this book in the library later so that you can know what you need to solve the puzzle. You have to read this part of the block text. It's not, it's required.
Don't summarize.
Like,
hey DMs.
Like,
This is, if you haven't been listening the last 3 seasons, read the box text.
or if you've been listening to me and not Jake for the last 3 seasons,
read the box text.
I'm with him on this one.
Yeah, we rarely agree.
Right.
But no, this one, like, do read, like, always read the box text. Don't summarize. Don't say, kind of.
Yeah.
Just read the damn box text. It's there for your help. It's there to fill time. Read it slowly. Don't read it fast.
Right.
Just read the damn box text.
Maybe read it twice.
Read it twice. Maybe even put extra emphasis so it's easier to do.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Because this is the only clue. The only clue of needing this
One
book
of the things.
that is crucial to solving the puzzle later. And you can't finish this module without solving the puzzle. So, there you go.
Well, you can't. You just run away. And you
I guess,
haven't done your thing. And Baron Radovich is, or Burgermeister Radovich is still going to be upset.
Yeah.
I do like that. I like the fact that you can choose. There's like, the timing, I think, is a very interesting component of this mission, because whatever your decision is instantly like decided upon. Like,
There's
if you choose to leave or
yeah.
you choose to stay, it's instant. And like, or maybe not, the next part it's instant, but like timing wise, it's like, oh, you're going to bed, well, it's time for the party. Like, you know, if you're leaving, it's time for the party. And I do like that it's not so aggressive. Like, sometimes mods will have a 4-hour mod will have like 60 pages, but if your party decides to go down one route, you can ixnay 10 of those pages.
Yeah. Because
it's like, oh, they chose not to do this, and it's like, oh, thanks for the extra info, and now I just lost an hour of my life, because, and not an hour, but like in the same degree as like you can, it's like it will come back, it splits off and it comes back together, and I do like that. It's not such an aggressive point where you're 4 pages derailed. It's a page, not even. It's like a half a page. So I do like that design, and it does change slightly how the adventure runs, and I don't think we've had many of those opportunities, if I remember correctly, in season 4, where it's like, you know, approaching from a different angle almost.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of opportunities where like the choices you make have immediate consequences,
or just have immediate repercussions. I don't know if consequence is the right word. It just changes the way that this is run. Like, you see the awfulness that happens, or you deal with some farmers. Right. Like, I really don't know where there's a circumstance that, well, I guess both make sense, because it's like, if she says no, Radovich, you go tell Radovich, and this, technically the story would be over. Yeah. So, but if you stay inside and stay the night, which is a logical thing to do, like both options are not like out of the question. Sure. It's just I wouldn't want to travel at night. It is not like a terribly long trip. So it's like a 2-hour trip or whatever. So maybe it wouldn't matter, but. I mean, but then you have like, I think staying definitely changes the whole aspect of this place, because like, yeah, it reminds, it just seems like a goofy like, you know, Quentin Tarantino Kill Bill scenario where like things just start happening and you're like, what's going on? Yeah. But yeah. Part 2, the transformation. The interlude occurs in one of 2 ways. Either the party stayed the night in the manor and are experiencing the raising of the dead firsthand, or the party left and hears the screams and death rattles from just outside the manor in the garden. It's unclear
who knows about the curse, right? Clearly the, like, regular rank and file people who live here don't know about the curse, and they're just, like, reliving the same day over and over again. I am not convinced that Lady Fedatov knows about the curse, because it's not very clear one way or the other. As a Banshee, she remembers what happened before she was a Banshee. But I don't think, like, as regular, not undead, anybody in the manor knows that this curse is going on. Right? Because I don't know why, like, a seemingly reasonable little Lady Fedatov would be like, hey, invite that boy that's in trouble from Arras now. I'll defend them to repay a debt. Right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
unless she's repaying that debt by turning him into undead and cursing him.
Well, how I understand it is anyone that was there the night of that thing happening dies, but if anyone else stays, it doesn't affect them.
Right, but presumably he'd just be killed, right? Like, I don't know how that repays the debt to, like, murder off.
Well, if she's not... Well, if she's conscious of repaying the debt, I doubt she would... If no one's there to... It's kind of like, if a tree falls in the forest, did you hear it? But would the event happen, or would it be... An event would always happen.
Right.
But
maybe we're getting into the philosophy of this too much, and it becomes less relevant as we keep digging.
Season 4, tabula rasa or nah.
Anyway, the party has the party is either inside or outside during the transformation. The mod seems to think that if they're outside, they'll immediately be curious and want to investigate the manor. I could very reasonably see a party that says, like, we don't care. Like, she said, no, we're leaving.
Well, but you immediately encounter the, like, you see when you're on your way out, like, once again, instantly happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he gets your stuff, and then it's like, it's
the
quite
farmers
dark,
turn to
blah,
gas,
blah, blah.
the cows turn to skeletal bowls.
They got and you're just like, I'm just gonna leave. Can I just leave? Like, it's supposed to, I think, immediately make the fact, or say, hey, something odd's going on. Turn around. But, like, if you truly didn't care, you just leave. You're like, I'm just gonna disengage and leave.
Yeah.
Like, but then this mod's over and you go home. I guess that was a fun 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know.
But will say, once again, know your audience, because there's some really descriptive stuff going on here. You know, you have, if not that, you have, you know, cracks going on. You got at least one thing where it says, the bodies begin to glow with dark energy, thrashing and writhing. You hear the audible, and I don't know why they made this necessary, a full capitalized crack of someone's spine snapping.
Yeah.
Like, just know...
Barovia is a graphic place.
Just know your audience. Just, like, I mean, once again, if they made it through the last mod, it's probably
pretty tame relative to that, yeah.
But, like, just once again, know your audience. It's... I feel like whenever you enter a mansion in Barovia, you either get strung up like a puppet, or you're like... Or this crap starts happening, like...
Yeah.
Toy soldiers, I don't know.
It becomes... I guess, like, my only concern is, like... Again, like, I'm trying to come up with places you would run this module. If you're running it for your table that you play with every week, realistically...
You're a jerk.
Realistically, they're probably playing in good faith, right? And they're gonna, like, buy into the module. This is, like, one of those obvious moments where, like, a table of problematic players at a convention would be like, well, my character wouldn't go back in. And you're like, all right, well, see you later. The mod.
Get the hell out of here.
I'm going to go get lunch then, you know?
Yeah, thanks for making it so I've got an hour and a half to kill.
Yeah, but...
Like, I do think that there's value to have here, but, Brian, I actually have a question for you on this. Do you think the graphicness and the volume of just overall, like, graphicness of when the description, do you think it's almost desensitizing? Because, you know, from the get-go, we had a situation where the woman tried to hang herself because she was a werewolf.
Or she was hanged, yeah. So here's what I'll say to that, right? Is I think clearly, the authors of season 4 are working very hard to set a horror tone, right? And that horror tone is built in this circumstance off kind of like body horror, because that is the easiest way to set that tone, and the way that requires the least amount of like moving parts, right? So like it's tough to build tension in kind of a Hitchcock way if you're not in control of how everything is running.
Yeah.
Body horror becomes like kind of like, I don't want to say I'll say it's the least common denominator of setting the tone they're trying to establish, keeping in mind that like every table is filled with different people, right? There's not a lot of control in it, right? So I think like they've picked and chosen the way that they want to set this tone based off that information, which is good information to pick it off of. Personally, I don't find it particularly convincing or satisfying, but like I'm also behind the veil for all of this, right? Like I've read through all of these 14 modules and know like kind of what goes on. I think there's a good place for body horror. Like, I guess like I
think
would
you brought up
compare
the
it.
point though. Like you brought up the point. It's like it's like, you know what? It's the most easy. It's the easiest way of creating a sense of horror is through that, and I actually do agree with that, because it's. I mean, what other way can you do something?
I mean, maybe it's not the easiest, but it's the most consistent, right? Like, it's the way you can set that tone across the most tables with the most moving variables, right?
Exactly.
And I think like it's not something that I think about like our home games, right? Like I think of In the Red, and it's not something I have particularly like shied away from, but it's also not like a pillar of tone that I lean on or try not to lean on. I guess that's more up to you than me whether or not it's successful, but
I know, body floating down a river or a decapitated.
And that is definitely a point where like body horror came up,
but it wasn't like,
but it was in service to a character, right? Like
I do believe different. Thinking about that, even like comparison, I think mutilated bodies, not necessarily like extraordinarily grotesquely mutilated bodies, but like in the way that you did it, where it was like, hey, they wrote through his skin, but it wasn't like, hey, there's still a lot of blood out. It was like, it's a waterlogged body, like it's now a canvas. Like repurposing of a body is a lot more aggressive in terms of establishing a horror, not necessarily horror, but like an emotion, like an emotion, than it is like straight up like.
But it also does
Final
it in
Destination
a way,
crap.
But it also does it in a way that's not like spiders explode from this body, right? Like,
or
like, I would say that is
I
would say that is the difference between like a body horror moment where like spiders emerge from a body and you make a horror check, and like this gross spooky thing floats down the river. That happens to be a body, but is barely recognizable as a body at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I do, once again, sorry DMs if you listen. It's just like, be aware of what's going on, because it's an aggressive, like, when I read those words, I'm like, I can hear it. Like and it just, I don't know if that's necessarily the intended goal. It might be.
I think it is, but I think like given the circumstances, I don't disagree with the route they take. Right? Like I don't think there's a better way to establish this tone than to use this kind of body horror to do it, because of this plug and play nature of organized play, right?
Agreed.
Like setting a tone is difficult even when you have complete control over all the variables. If you don't, like, you take shortcuts, right? That's just the way to do it. Just kind of the way you have to do it. So, yeah.
Other than that, minus that major thing happening, you have now a reason to go back. Otherwise, you can pick up your stuff and leave. Like, that's just that simple. You re-engage with another pot hook, bring them back in. Either you're outside, or you have now dealing with. It feels like a Rudy Goldberg kind of situation where everything just starts exploding. and the most ridiculous things happen. Well, that does happen, and now we're at part 3.
Part 3, the Cursed Manor. Characters make their way through the manor, encountering undead as they go. They'll have to put together a few clues to enter Lady Fedotov's vault. The first of these clues has already happened in the box text in Part 1. Once the players have discovered they need the Fedotov family crest from the art gallery and determined which one it is by reaching the library, they can enter the Fedotov vault. This is very close to a scavenger hunt and very infuriating. You have to get to the vault to determine that you need the crest.
But if you get to the vault,
you don't have the crest, it's very dangerous. So you need to get there to discover you need the crest, and then go back to the manor, to the art room where there are many crests, and then you have to figure out which crest is the right crest by going to the library and researching the Fedotov family line.
Well, question to you, Brian, on that. Mm-hmm. So you're in the Fedotov mansion. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you believe that there's crests around? Considering the nature of this is a setting question too, because I feel like this is something that, like, above a staircase, I would imagine there being an emblem, and maybe like, that it's not these 10, but like, of course you're gonna need something, but do you think that's almost like a negligible, like, okay, so they missed that, but I would feel like in these kind of in the Strahd campaign, and with how gothic and horrific and medieval almost it is.
I think there are a lot of crests in manors, even some that are not necessarily of the like, the idea here is like the Fedotov line is not the only line that like is in this man, like that's how family trees work, right? And so like there are many crests because there are many families that have intertwined. And the Fedotov line is just like the strongest one.
The latest installment. Or not the latest.
Not the latest, but the one that the name has carried on for, right? So I think there's probably a lot of crests. I think if your party...
I was thinking like recurring images, like that kind of thing. Like, that's the one, like versus like the Hall of Crests, where it's just like 1,000 crests. Like, I know there's not that in this manner, but like,
I mean, like, there's the art gallery, which is 10, which is 9 too many, right? Like, I mean,
I'm just trying to imagine, like, if I had a cool manor, I would put Crest Del Maro somewhere, and I'd probably, if I was going to do it, because I'm not, because I consider myself not a complete psychopath, I wouldn't just put it in my house once. I'd probably put it in like a few places. And like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you'd probably have it in a few areas, and like maybe that's a way for a DM to be like, you need this, but you need a specific one.
Yeah, I mean, like, that has potential, right? Especially if you've got a party that like missed that first clue,
or you forgot to read it,
But again, like, your party has to recognize that, right? Like, that's the thing, like, how do you bring that up, right? As they enter the room, are you like, you see this crest on the wall every time they enter a room to telegraph that the crest is important? Like, at some point, they're like, we get it, this is going to be important. I mean, like...
check if they get stuck.
Yeah, or, like, if they enter and just ask to do a perception or investigation check, like, you could just mention that, like, there's a crest on the wall.
Maybe not the first one, be like 3 down.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, like, I'm trying to think of as a DM, like, okay, that they are just not picking up on this. They, because it's honestly, this mod could be a situation where they just like have no idea what to do.
I think so.
Like
it took a while for you guys to like get with the kind of plot structure when I ran it for you. Like, you took...
My notes look like a nightmare.
Yeah,
I'm like, I think at one point in time I was like, I need, like, I was like, fill in when we do the DM recap. Like, it's unclear. So as a DM, they're gonna flounder like a fish. Like they're going to not know what to do unless somebody's run this in the past. But if you have brand new players, or this is a group of players that are new, haven't run this kind of stuff, this is like one of those things that's pretty unclear. that, like, the last box text ends with, everywhere you look, you see the dead piled in corners, splayed across the back of a chair, hanging limply in the jagged glass of a shattered window. The immediate danger seems to have passed, but you can still hear the sounds of fighting in the distance. And it literally says the characters and the players are at a bit of an information disadvantage.
Yeah.
Like, and it says the most logical thing is find the lady. If they were inside, they know she's in the parlor. Or salon, whatever. Which I don't know if it's. I guess they can make if they were outside, they wouldn't know. Like, they might go back to the library because that was where they last saw her or something like that. If they were outside once again. But now they have to play the game of searching through the manor, and they don't know what they're looking for. What would bring them to the idea of there's a crypt?
The fact that all manors of this,
crypts?
Right? I mean, the fact that like a major component of Victorian manors is that there is some sort of crypt system for the family.
I didn't know that.
I don't know. Like, I think like maybe that's not true, but it's not entirely outside the realm of
I'm thinking like France. Like, I guess they really had occasional
like estates
ones,
have estates have graveyards, right? For the family graveyards. That's a thing. I don't know. I do want to talk briefly about the art gallery and the mirror encounter. There's a mirror golem encounter where like there's a mirror golem and a reflection golem.
Talk about some Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards right there.
Yeah, it's a trap card for sure. It's a mess. It does extend the encounter
because you don't know how to run it. That's
tough to run.
It's tough to run.
It does seem not derivative, but it seems similar to. There's a similar mirror encounter in season 3 with a doppelganger in the carnival. But like
it literally is almost the same. It's a very similar run of that, and I would say that this is like one of those situations where that's just like you're not gonna feel clean running this. You're gonna feel like you need to take a shower after this. Like, I was reading through it and I was like, what is going on?
Here's the thing. You can't read the mirror encounter and run the mirror encounter. You need to read it and then make a lot of decisions about how it actually works and then run it.
You need to take some liberties.
Yeah. Which is fine. Like, that's well within your ability as a DM. Just, like, be aware that that's not something you're going to be able to run cold.
So maybe we do talk about this right now. So, as I ran through it, it was... So, 2 monsters. And let's break down the mirror golem really fast.
Okay.
So, you have... Both of them... Or it's a reflection guardian. It's a mirror golem and a reflection guardian. So, the golem itself is not... Like, it's like Barovia, it sucks. But it also, itself, in that being said, is flawed. So just reading the description. It is a bunch of mirrors tied to, essentially morphed together.
Right.
And that in and of itself, like it. Immediately like it.
It's a cool monster, right? Like, the notion of, like, this monster, this golem of, like, reflective surfaces is a cool notion. Don't get me wrong.
So there's a bunch of mirrors in the room, and it can, if you look through the mirror to look at it, you gain the ability that it's vulnerable. But since you're looking away from it, you have disadvantage on the attack
roll. Yeah.
So that means you can't sneak attack it, which is fine, and that's a really specific class.
Yeah.
But so now you have, but like, if a character looking through a mirror uses the help action to aid someone, which in and of itself is funny to think, where someone's going like, yeah,
he's pointing behind him, like,
yeah, he's going like hit over there.
Oh, I forgot to reverse because the Zoom call. Yeah. It's over there actually.
It's over there now, and I do like that, and which makes it so. If the character being helped can make a wisdom check, an insight check, to use this info.
I just want to point out here that it sounds like we don't know what we're talking about.
This is just how it's written.
It's because we don't know what we're talking about. Like, we've both read this 5 or 6 times, and it has not gotten easier. Like, it's just messy.
But like, there's just a lot of. it's an interesting fight.
Mhm.
But what occurs is if someone starts smashing the mirrors, you can't get past the vulnerabilities, and you're back to the damage reduction that is the golem, which I think is the funniest thing ever.
Which is where it's the
And
opposite of the season 3 version, where the goal is to smash the mirrors.
smash the mirrors,
Like,
and then you have a guardian that's just, I guess, casting counterspell. That's just being an overall nuisance. Like,
yeah. So the Reflection Guardian is
literally
a pretty
just
limited
there.
stat block.
It's just, it saves its reaction to use counterspell and otherwise do Crown of Madness.
Right.
That's just like,
there's similar, there's like art golems in one of the last 2 mods of this season that work very similarly, where it's
I
like
do
all
like
they
the
do is
idea.
counterspell. I like the
They're
idea
a
of,
pain in the ass.
yeah.
As a player, they suck because like because you want to get close, and then like there's just always something more pressing to do, and it's like you cast a spell, it's a counterspell, and you're like, son of a bitch, and it's like it's the most annoying thing ever. They have
And
like,
you don't get to know what counterspelled you either, because it's got a false appearance situation. So like,
and it doesn't have any like verbal components.
right?
It's just
So it's
like,
just like counterspell. Well, what counterspelled me? I don't know.
you don't know.
Like
Well,
what?
can I see it?
Like,
Nope.
nope. Can it see me? Yeah.
It has 22 hit points,
Mhm.
mind you. It can't be grappled. Well, I guess that makes sense. Like, it's just, it's got his. The amount of spells, I always forget of how ridiculous these things are. It's got 3, 6, 9, 12 spells.
Mm-hmm.
3 hypnotic patterns, 3 crowns of madnesses, 3 telekinesis, and 3 countered
Yeah.
spells.
It's
Fuck
bad
that.
news. Yeah, it's
But it doesn't have an attack. It's literally the only thing is to use reactions and just cast spells. Nothing
it's
else.
just there to slow you down. Yeah.
It's literally
Like,
there just to slow you down.
mhm.
And this is the crap that keeps me up at night. Unfortunately.
These are the things that are the most fun for DMs to run and the least fun for players to encounter.
Because it's and you know what, as a DM, this is one of those times where like you make a decision. You say, how much do you not like your players? Or how much do you like your players?
Yeah.
Because this is a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are not a joke. And a hypnotic pattern, you're out cold. There's no save for that.
Yeah, it's bad
Like,
news.
If your party fails because they suck, like, they're out. And the golem's not going to start attacking them. Like, it's just very interesting, considering that if you have a strong or a very strong party, you could be dealing with not only one Reflection Guardian,
But
it could be 2 or 3.
Or 3.
And the golem has potentially 200 hit points.
Yeah. That being said, it's also an optional encounter, so like you're not.
I don't know if I would skip it though.
It is an interesting encounter for sure.
Like, maybe, I mean, I don't know if there's like if the gig's up. I don't think there's a situation where you can hand wave this one, because you might have to duke it out to the end. Like, it's a tough fight.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be fighting a banshee later. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But like, there really isn't that much. If I remember correctly, that's like one of 2 encounters. I think there's only 2 encounters. in
Yeah,
this mod.
there's not a lot.
You might just run that mod.
Yeah.
I mean, the last one is tough, and
Sure.
they're gonna want to take a short rest if they got the crap kicked out of them.
Yeah.
Which, it doesn't say you can't do that.
Sure.
They're definitely not getting a long rest.
No.
But I don't know if I would allow my party to go in guns blazing into the final encounter with their tank on full.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there are like undead marauding this manor, so like there is ample reason to tell people no, right? Like you can't get a short rest because
I guess
there's
you technically in the
ghasts
beginning.
everywhere.
Well, they don't have random encounters, so.
I mean, it's not written in, but you could press the issue with your players.
If you were to skip this, I would immediately. I mean, as we did, we are running it as true to form as possible.
Mhm.
But if you were to skip this encounter, you're probably going to need to add 2 encounters.
Yeah.
Like, or resource dumps.
Yeah.
Because the beginning, is there a fight for if you stayed the night? I always forget this. If you stayed the night, I don't think there is
No,
one.
I think things just go south.
It's only, well.
Oh no, there's the ballroom blitz.
No, this is 3 fights. So I guess if you were to skip this, add an above normal difficulty, or immediately tune these up to be very hard. Like,
yeah,
that's probably what I would do.
yeah.
I mean, other than that, it's you have so that encounter's tough. Then you gotta,
and it's in a location that the party has to go to.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can skip it by not going in that room, because that's where the key to the puzzle is.
I would say, figure out where your character or your players are at. If they are if time is making sense for you to do the encounter, do it. But if they're just like getting frustrated,
it's also an interesting encounter, right? Like, I wouldn't.
And that's the
I would
problem.
probably
It's
cut.
like,
I would probably, if you were in a hurry, I would cut down the hit points of the golem, so it only lasts.
maybe not to be as much of a jerk.
Right. It only lasts
counterspelling.
2 or 3, maybe 4 rounds, instead of going the full length of 200 hit points or whatever. Because it's an interesting encounter, right? Like,
Yeah.
the Reflection Guardian is neat if annoying. The Mirror
Which is
Golem
like
is
the
neat
only
if
reason
problematic.
I would even hold it. Like,
Yeah.
that's really the only reason, and that's the problem. It's like, I would do it because of that. But just be aware of what your players are doing, where they're at. If they're showing visible signs of frustration with the mod, maybe don't be a jerk.
The benefit here is it's a 2-hour mod, so they're not 3 hours into it already tired and like.
Yeah, you
Frustrated
might be
here,
like, they're gonna have to figure it out. They're gonna have to likely go to the garden, and that's just gonna suck.
Yeah.
But it also, you're in Barovia. I don't know what you expected if you signed up for this table.
Yeah.
Like,
Speaking of the garden, part 4, breaking the curse, the party makes their way through the hand-waved hedge maze to the entrance of the vault. There they can insert the family crest to open it. Inside, the party will face the Banshee Lady Fedatov, Strahd's animated armor, and the compulsions of the treasure itself, and swarms of coins. The hand wave.
I like it. I like the hand wave.
All right, so let's start with the hedge maze. It's hand wave for time. The module says like you could make the hedge maze problematic if you want to stretch this to a 4-hour mod, and it suggests you do that by offering skill checks. That's not going to stretch it out 2 hours. Like, that is not a solution to make this 2-hour mod a 4-hour mod. It's going to be a 2-hour and 4-minute mod at that point, but still, it's fine.
Well, I do like the idea that they're trying to save time. It's just, it seems so like, hey, it's moving, but you move quicker than the maze, and it's
right.
Like, okay.
And like, I like the idea of like, well, if you have a fighter who just wants to lawnmower his way through it, just make him roll athletics checks. Okay, like, cool, done. All right.
I would be like, all right, we got to get out of here. Like, I don't.
Clearly,
know
y'all are losing it. Like, you're all
Yeah.
not super interested, so let's just get moving. The crypt itself has a pretty hefty trap.
That's not a fun
If you
trap.
fail, it's 22 necrotic damage. By fail, I mean if you try to enter it without a crest, you take 22
Which could
necrotic
very well
damage.
just like somebody could touch it and then just go, all right, well, you just lost half your hit points. Like,
if you use the wrong crest.
Yeah, that's also another one. So be very clear when your players are doing this. I'm not necessarily as worried about resources. Well, their health. Like, I mean, it's always fun to like toy with your players, but like, there's a difference between like resource usage and like just beating them up on their HP.
Yeah.
Like, there's like it will change how your players play, but not always for the best.
It's also the least interesting resource to take away from your players.
Yeah, because then the cleric's just sitting there like, come on, guys, like, stop being idiots.
Yeah.
And
like the
they're
idea,
out of spell slots.
Yeah, the idea of resource dumps is like your players have to get creative with the tools they have left.
Yeah.
It's not like you need to burn all your tools to get hit points back, right? So like the notion of hit points being the first thing to go is just kind of, it's a little bit like killing players in D&D. It's the least interesting punishment you can give to a player. There are many more interesting things you can do. It's in that same kind of vein.
Yeah, and like maybe I don't want to take away, but like if they get stuck here, I don't know. Like you could be doling out a lot of hit points. And the other thing you can always do is move this to a separate situation where it's like they have disadvantage on the rapture checks, or in rapture checks, which I think is a lot more interesting because
it's for one round and they have another chance. Like
even
disadvantage on a DC 12 doesn't make it impossible. Tough. It's challenging, but not. I'm sorry, a DC 11.
But like that to me is like a lot, which is like it's like, oh, the crypt thinks you're trying to steal,
right?
And then it puts another effect on you, and then it gives you double disadvantage. No, like you just gotta don't be a jerk about it. Like I would slam my head into that.
I would say I would make the trap go off once with necrotic damage.
Maybe twice.
But then open, and then I would give disadvantage on those wisdom saves. I think that's a lot more interesting way to deal with the consequence of failure than just you're out of hit points.
Yeah.
Than going into a tough fight with 11 hit points. Because the whole premise, one of the most interesting things about that next encounter is what happens when you fail those checks. And realistically, a flat DC 11 wisdom check is not that challenging at tier 2, right? You're not going to see a lot of people fail. But if they
fail, still a 30 to 40% fail rate, but it's you're now at the point where you're supposed to pass more often than not because hopefully you didn't dump wisdom.
But if you've rejiggered this trap or this puzzle to give disadvantage, all of a sudden those problems are going to come up more often.
And the Banshee lives longer, and and you deal with a Strahd armor, which is not fun.
And swarms of creeping coins,
which also hit super hard.
They do. It's weird.
I like swarms. It's just they're swarms, and they make you go damn.
This happened in one of the earlier mods in this season too. The swarms of creepy dolls. I get it, but I'm not into it. I don't know. It screams Goosebumps in a setting that has tried to be Van Helsing, that's tried to be Dracula. And I get that they're trying to break it up and provide that comedic horror aspect, but it just doesn't work in a way that seems useful to me. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not sold on it.
I'm not sold on it. Maybe y'all are, and in that case, keep them in mind and just have at it. Just hold on to this stat block and throw swarms of coins into all your adventures. But
I think they're interesting to say the least. I like how they're used, and I like how they're and out of the treasure. It's do. I can almost imagine it's just one coin going or two coins going
it. I had a very it felt very DuckTales to me.
Oh, it was 100% DuckTales. 100% DuckTales.
I read through it and I was oh, race cars, lasers, and aeroplanes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I am ambivalent about the swarm of creeping coins, but y'all should do what you feel is right.
I would make it funny and then just make it realize that they're going to kick your ass.
Yeah, they hit for 14 damage. I'm sorry.
And they're a swarm.
Yeah,
they can take your space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an interesting. This is a tough fight.
Yeah.
And I think that, as Brian said, either dampen the earlier fight and give this a lot more attention.
Yeah.
Because a Banshee's not fun to that could kill you too. There's a lot of kill cards in this fight. It's
not... the Banshee's wail is bad news, right?
It just drops you.
It just makes you unconscious. Even if you have Death Ward up, it doesn't drop your...
Fight your players about it. They say Death Ward, go throw them the middle finger and say it's not how it works.
It doesn't.
Hit points are placed at 0.
Yeah.
They're not. It doesn't go down to 0. They're placed at 0.
Yeah.
Fight
Your hit points are now 0, not they reduce from 1 to 0.
Also, whoever thought that a very strong party should fight 2 banshees should be hit in the head.
Jeez.
Like, I'm pretty certain. If I remember correctly, each banshee is independent, or is that difference between? Like, I think is it if you fit past their save, does it make you immune to all banshee roars, or whatever whales? I don't remember. There
is no indication that you are immune to banshee whales. It's just you only take 10 damage instead. You're not immune to banshee whales for the rest of the day or whatever.
God, what jerks.
It's not like diseases or lycanthropy or whatever, where like if you pass the save, you're immune for 24 hours.
It just can happen twice. Yeah,
it just could happen twice in a round, right? Like, not only
you fail?
Like you succeed on a banshee whale save, great, make another one. Oh, you're all dead now.
And also, if the group is particularly strong, it has the ability. She has 3 legendary actions a turn, which one of them is got my voice back, which is 2 actions to wail again.
To just do another banshee wail, yeah.
Even though it says once a day, this just overrides this.
Specific outweighs generic.
Does it again? Yeah, specific outweighs generic. Just do it.
Every round, she could have 2 banshee wails. Like,
this is a mean fight. Like, as I'm reading through some of these, like. And once again, this is not necessarily to utilize at all times, but it was if 2 banshees and was not enough, throw on a banshee with legendary actions and it becomes 1,000 times worse. The CR jumps incredibly. You will kill characters.
And Estrade's animated armor and
Strahd's animated
armor.
Like, just be careful. Strahd's animated armor, know what he does. He's got a high AC. He will mess you up.
Yeah, for sure.
It will mess you up. And then you got the coins. Like, just know where you're at. Otherwise, it's an interesting fight. We didn't even talk about the enrapture portion of it. I guess we spoke about it a little bit.
It's pretty clear. Yeah, it's a cool concept that like makes a challenging fight even harder. Where like your party could be focused on the treasure in the vault rather than killing.
But
things.
It gives you ways to softball stuff. Like if a lot of your party is like enraptured, just let the coins beat the hell out of them for a little bit, and then it's like make the banshee come up later. Yeah. Which it's nice. It's like, hey, if you want, if everyone just got messed up or got that, maybe give it a round if they kill the coins. But then it's like, oh, a suit of armor shows up. Like, ooh. Suit of armor and a banshee, and like her every time it starts out, like it should be almost an intro sequence where even if she gets screwed by like initiative, just make her wail as soon as she enters. Like make it a plot theme.
Yeah, and like it fits the whole narrative of the mod. Like her main purpose is defending her family wealth. Like,
I would make it almost a scripted sequence, because that will set the tone of the fight. Because either you can. Like maybe do that before the animated armor shows up, because if she shows up and 4 people go down out of a 5-person party, like, and
the person that doesn't is like the fighter with no healing capability,
with like a healing potion, like maybe you do that. Like I think it's not necessarily abusive, but like you can judge what your sequence of events is from there, because I think if she dies, which she shouldn't, before she gets to go and you don't get to wail, it's like, well, what kind of threat was there? But like, if you have one person, I mean, she only has 58 hit points. Yeah. Like, she's resistant to non-magical attacks, but like, she can die from a smite. Like,
this is also, I mean, it's also tier 2. Everybody should have a magic weapon because they get one at the end of tier 1, kind of by default. Like,
she's only a CR4. Yeah. But like her CR4 will yikes somebody.
Yeah, it's bad news.
Just make it happen. Just be a good DM.
Yep. Conclusion: in the end, the party's faced with another treacherous decision: what to do with the treasures of the Fedotoff family. They can earn a story reward by keeping it. They can destroy it, leave it, take it to help harass now. There's really no good choices here because it's cursed. If they take it to harass now, maybe they don't trust the Burgermeister and find somewhere else to put it. Maybe they send it to Strahd. I don't know. I mean, there's also a lot if they don't have a bag of holding. Specifically, it says like they're not going to be able to get it all.
Well, it says they get a cart or something. I think there's like it says like
there's an old wagon
cart nearby, that can do it, and it's just like I do like the story award, like the cursed one. It's just like you are permanently bestowed cursed. Like it's just you have disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws. Yeah. Yep, just while it exists, and it's like, you know what, interesting plot hook. You'll instantly get like every 30 minutes get an inspiration from me. Like
I think it's a good mod overall. I think there's some interesting stuff here. I think like some of it needs some retooling on the part of DMs. The puzzle kind of scavenger hunt nature. You're gonna have to retool some of the encounters to be more reasonable. This is not. You're not gonna make this a 4-hour module. Like despite the mod's best efforts
even
to convince
even
you,
afterwards where the mod's like, hey, here's some more description, it's like it's not it. There is a pretty much a post-amble, I don't know what the hell it's called,
an addendum. Yeah, there's a whole
addendum
like
where it's
5
like
or
they
6
try
pages.
to do that, like,
but
I
it's
don't
just
know.
a lot of description. It doesn't. There's no like extra things to do.
It's just more info and like, sure, it's cool to have, but it's like, why don't, it's like only 6 pages, like just put that in the mod instead.
Yeah, it's not
it's
a
nothing
6
to write
it's
home
not
about.
a 2-hour addendum for sure.
No.
Anyway, there it is, DDEX 4-9, the Tempter. Thank you so much for listening to some advice to streamline and run it at your tables. Be a good neighbor, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe. Toll the Dead for notifications. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. And from now, until the next time, roll together.